I'm Sue Spence, Vice President of Global Sourcing at FedEx. It is my pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, the 27th Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration, Isabella Casillas Guzman. As a member of the President's Cabinet, Administrator Guzman is the voice for America's 32.5 million small businesses and innovative startups. Administrator Guzman has made supporting small business her life's work. From a very young age, working beside her father in his chain of veterinary hospitals in Southern California, she gained a deep appreciation for the small business owners who deliver our products and services, define main streets in neighborhoods across America, and innovate to solve global problems. Administrator Guzman spent her early career in the private sector as a founder, advisor, and consultant. It was there that she learned the crucial role small businesses play in creating paths to the American dream. She went on to commit herself to public service, serving as Deputy Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor at the SBA, and a small business advocate for the state of California to help advance equity and opportunity for all entrepreneurs. Under Administrator Guzman's leadership, the SBA has continued to scale dramatically while revamping programs and services to address crucial challenges, including reestablishing the Council on Underserved Communities and the Community Navigators Program, among others. Administrator Guzman leads with a customer-first, technology-forward, and equitable approach. She continues to work to transform the SBA's programs and services to meet all small businesses where they are and to deliver the capital, revenue growth opportunities, and support networks all entrepreneurs need to start, grow, and lead our reimagined economy. Please join me in welcoming Isabella Guzman.
Thank you, Sue, for your introduction as well as your work at FedEx. I also want to thank ICIC CEO Steve Grossman for his leadership in ICIC, but also for his service on SBA's restored Council on Underserved Communities. Steve has been a strong voice helping the SBA deliver on the President's vision of an economy that works for everyone. And thank you to all of our small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs who've joined us. I'm honored to be able to celebrate you all here with ICIC, along with the collaborators and partners who are joining us, especially as our shared work at the SBA is so aligned and focused on delivering inclusive economic prosperity. Your success is our success at the SBA. SBA is more than a collection of programs and services. We are the agency that focuses on delivering the promise of the American dream of business ownership and doing it with equity so that all the great ideas from everywhere and anywhere can thrive, as President Biden says. I know firsthand the transformative power that entrepreneurship can have to open up opportunities and build generational wealth. I grew up in a small business family, working with my dad at his veterinary hospital. I've launched and grown my own ventures, and I've advised others. I know the entrepreneurial spirit and the trademark grit, perseverance, and ability to pivot and change are what make small businesses America's most powerful tool for job growth, competition, and innovation. And I know it is our small businesses who help deliver our incredible economic recovery from COVID, the strongest of any developed nation in the world. Now the SBA is working to scale up our ability to empower you because our economy continues to need your ingenuity and perseverance. This time to be part of the historic investments and generational rebuilding that President Biden is leading across the country. And we know to take advantage of these new opportunities and achieve success, you need resources. As the voice in President Biden's cabinet for America's 33 million small businesses and innovative startups, I've traveled around the country, meeting with small businesses across multiple industries and in all types of communities. The common theme I see and hear is that businesses that leveraged SBA programs have leveled up and learned to work smarter to build resilient businesses. As SBA administrator, I am advancing changes across our programs and pushing our agency forward to meet businesses where they are with simplified, streamlined products and services. And at the same time, We're connecting with more small business customers through expanded networks and partnerships so we can open even more doors to capital, revenue, and good advice. These changes go to the heart of our mission and our founding at the SBA. SBA launched nearly 70 years ago to promote small business and entrepreneurship in this country and help ensure competition in the economy. Small businesses provide that competition, and when we support them, our economy is stronger. The marketplace is better at making quality, affordable products and services. And some of those businesses go on to do it at scale. Apple founders received an SBA loan early on in their company's growth. Jenny's Ice Cream received an SBA loan to move from the farmers markets to Jenny's first brick and mortar shop, and now more than 40 scoop and retail shops nationwide. Chobani's founder received an SBA loan to buy an old yogurt facility and transform it into a production for one of the nation's top brands today. And those big names just scratch the surface of the small business impact in our economy. Tens of thousands of businesses every year receive either microloans, working capital loans, real estate loans, investments, innovation grants, or grants to trade abroad and more from the SBA to grow their businesses. The bottom line is that SBA programs are some of the best investments the federal government makes because small businesses create 2/3 of net new jobs, and they sharpen America's competitive edge, drive innovation, create new industries, make their products and services in America, and strengthen our nation's industrial base and supply chains. These investments in America's economic growth and success couldn't come at a more important time. Our nation is at a pivotal moment. Small businesses have been squeezed by years of market consolidation and lack of competition that have driven up prices and pushed families and small businesses to the brink. That's why the president ran for office. And our economy wasn't ready for the disruption of COVID as a result. President Biden and this administration came in and fought to restore our nation's economy and build resilience. Thanks to the president's American Rescue Plan, we vaccinated millions, reopened schools, and the SBA was able to save and reopen small businesses to lead the strongest economic recovery in American history. Under the Biden-Harris administration, we have created 10.2 million jobs and saw a record 8.7 million new business starts, 70% higher than any similar period on record. America is open for business, and we want to build on that. Hopefully you all saw that when you were out shopping during Small Business Saturday, or you will as you shop, dine, entertain, and promote small businesses during this critical holiday shopping season, and you saw that spirit of entrepreneurship at play, at work in our economy. Well, now as we move to create stable, sustainable economic growth, the president and this administration are continuing to deliver on that same bold economic agenda. We're building an economy that restores our global economic leadership and invests in America so that we can be ready and resilient in the future. If you consider this, President Biden's legislative accomplishments have secured the most ambitious economic recovery package since President Roosevelt. Now, first, we have the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is the biggest infrastructure commitment since Eisenhower. And the SBA is working to help ensure that small businesses can lead the rebuilding of America and win those contracts to rebuild our bridges, our transit systems, our water systems, our broadband. Businesses like Heather Avila's Live Electric in Vegas that is going to help build and maintain EV charging stations in the future. She's also a graduate of our Emerging Leaders program at the SBA. But it's not just businesses getting the contracts directly. Small businesses rely on transit and infrastructure to connect communities and get more customers, broadband to sell online, and the jobs and the funding that goes to our contractors and their workers gets spent locally on small businesses as well. And these small business stories and the economic impact are being replicated all across America, with already nearly 7,000 specific projects underway across more than 4,000 communities in every state, DC, and the territories. Second is the president delivered the most significant investment in manufacturing and research and development in history with the CHIPS and Science Act. Small businesses are the American manufacturers and innovators that will help us advance manufacturing here in America, supply chains and technology, so we can lead and also be more resilient. And third, President Biden delivered the Inflation Reduction Act, a historic law that lowers costs for families in healthcare and finally reduces prescription drug costs, which greatly benefits small businesses and their employees. And it also represents the most comprehensive set of actions to fight climate change, which will help produce the energy economy of the future, which of course, small businesses will be a part of creating. The president has had the most productive first 2 years of any administration in American history. And above all, he remains committed to addressing the challenges that persist, which is why the president and the entire Biden-Harris administration have been prioritizing fighting global inflation and building a stable economy that works for everyone. The president's economic plan is showing results. People are starting to feel the positive impact. Inflation is cooling, and experts believe that trend will continue. It will take time to get inflation back to normal levels, and we could see setbacks along the way, but we will keep at it and find ways that we can help families and small businesses manage the costs. We are on the right path, and we need to keep moving forward to build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, the president says, which I, of course, believe that is a startup, that is a small business. As the agency responsible for helping entrepreneurs to start, grow, and build resilient businesses, the SBA has an enormous role to play in the president's economic agenda. I'm leading transformation at the agency so we can better serve our nation's 33 million small businesses. The SBA scaled dramatically during COVID from $60 billion in support to over $500 billion in the president's first year. And we pivoted PPP, COVID EIDL, and other critical COVID relief programs to better serve the smallest of the small businesses. We showed we could meet businesses where they are with a larger, more diverse network and more partnerships than ever, simplified products, including our over 450 community navigators funded through the American Rescue Plan. We also expanded existing SBA networks. We now have a women's business center located in every state and Puerto Rico, with more centers at minority serving institutions and HBCUs than ever before, as well as the largest network of Native grantees serving Indian country. In our critical relief programs, we served in multiple languages and worked with more lenders and partners for more equity. And we have advanced our technology solutions, just as our small businesses have had to do over the past few years. We know capital continues to be king, and we have pivoted and adapted our own programs so we can get more small dollar loans into the hands of our underserved small businesses where there are the greatest gaps in the marketplace. For example, earlier this year, we relaunched and expanded our popular Community Advantage program, putting a stronger and more accessible tool in the hands of local mission lenders. We increased the maximum loan size to $350,000, but we also importantly simplified underwriting and collateral requirements so you can now get an unsecured loan up to $50,000 for your business. We removed criminal background question requirements to further reduce racial bias. And it's not just capital, it's all revenue growth opportunities. President Biden wanted to help grow small businesses with our federal spending, and we have been reforming government contracting so more businesses can grow by doing business with the largest buyer in the world, the U.S. government. We also launched the Small Business Digital Alliance, which is a public-private partnership that leans into digitization of small businesses, recognizing that e-commerce is the future for so many small businesses to access not only their neighborhoods, but customers around the world. All of these solutions impact real lives and real business owners. And I have seen the difference that small business resources like these, like those the ICIC provides, can make, especially in historically underserved and overlooked communities. America needs its risk takers and hardworking entrepreneurs to succeed. And we know that the face of entrepreneurship is changing. We cannot continue to underinvest in our underserved entrepreneurs and let that hold our economy back. barriers that stop women and people of color or rural entrepreneurs from growth, and that prevents us from being a global economic leader must be taken down. Women and people of color are responsible for nearly all of the new business starts, but they make up less than a fraction of all venture capital, and many still need help getting loans, connecting to more diverse and culturally competent networks of advisors, and learning how to do business with the federal government or access e-commerce and markets abroad. So at SBA, I am challenging my team to do more, radically simplifying our loan and investment programs so the government can do what it needs to do to spur entrepreneurship, and that's fill persistent market gaps for women and people of color and rural communities and other underserved communities. This work and my commitment are driven by so many of the successful entrepreneurs I've met and continue to be inspired by. I mentioned Jenny from Jenny's Ice Cream earlier. She started with a $35,000 loan back in the late 90s, and our economy needs and wants more Jennies, but those small dollar loans are harder to come by. We need to change that. And there's Cleo Barger of Midstate Aerospace, probably the first African-American woman to launch an aerospace manufacturing business back in the 80s in Kansas City, Kansas. And she leveraged SBA's 8A program to build her business with the Department of Defense, the federal government, and with other large private suppliers. And now she's using SBA Global Trade Grant Program, STEP, to win millions of dollars in contracts abroad. And we need to simplify government contracting and return small business contracting programs to that heyday when there were less bundled contracts and schedules that limited competition. We need more Cleos. We want to replicate her success. Or there's also Pat, who I met recently from Pat's Granola, who has built her online business with tools from our partners in the Small Business Digital Alliance so she could grow her business, including abroad, where she is apparently very popular in Japan, as she tells me. We need more Pats. And actually we need all of you. You are all, as small business owners, critical for our economy, for the generational challenges before us. Remember, the work you do as entrepreneurs, innovators, as well as those who support the entrepreneurs, is America's greatest source of economic strength. And we're here for you. Visit us at the SBA. Reach out through our partners. And thank you, ICIC, for supporting the incredible small businesses joining us in this conference so that our nation can achieve equitable economic growth. Together, I have confidence that we can make sure all of our nation's great ideas and growing businesses can seize on the opportunities of a nation open for business and be part of building America back better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Administrator Guzman, for your and your team's tireless efforts to propel our businesses and economy forward. We are so grateful to work with SBA, including our resource partners, SBDC, Women's Business Centers, which you all heard are now available in every state, SCORE, and SBA-approved lenders across the country. At this time, I'm so excited to be joined by Kendall Corley, Deputy Chief of Staff at the SBA, for Q&A. So folks, make sure that you post your questions in the chat box and we'll get to as many of them as we can during this session. Kendall, thank you so much for joining us during this very busy time at the SBA. And before we even get started with audience questions, tell us more about you and your role at the agency and your illustrious background.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting SBA to be a part of this. We certainly enjoy a great partnership and working with Steve Grossman, who is a part of one of our advisory committees, the Council of Underserved Communities. And again, thank you, Anna Marie, for the question. I'm a native originally from South Carolina, graduate of Norfolk State University in Norfolk, Virginia. Prior to my role at SBA, I served on the Biden campaign as a senior advisor doing the primary. Prior to that, I worked in the Michigan primary. And then prior to that, I served as the state director for President Biden in South Carolina during the early state primaries. My role at SBA is Deputy Chief of Staff for External Engagement. The portfolio consists of intergovernmental affairs, working with our nation's governors, mayors, county council officials, economic development officials, different associations within government, as well as public engagement. Anything external facing from SBA having a role in planning and advising on that external facing programming, and of course advising the administrator in a number of different external facing initiatives, and leveraging relationships throughout the agency with external partners to build stronger relationships and partnerships to achieve the mission of SBA.
Well, that is wonderful. And Kendall, thank you for your many years of public service and all these different roles that now have led you to the SBA. And I want to mention a lot of these interactions that you're having with different entities and different agencies as well as states is really making an impact. I want to mention a comment from Kenzel Fallon in our audience today. She says, "It is great to see Administrator Guzman again. Thank you for visiting us in Houston this year. And we know that it really is making an impact to have such high visibility for SBA as you hold your town halls and different forums across the country. We know you're very busy. So again, just really appreciate having you here. I do want to begin with a couple of questions around capital. We know capital is still one of the greatest barriers for small businesses, regardless of size, really. And this particular question is around some of the new programs around capital. We heard Administrator Guzman mention that the Community Advantage Loan, which is such an impactful program, has been increased to $350,000, and some of the collateral requirements have also been removed for the smaller SBA loans. What are other recent changes to existing federal small business capital programs, and how might they improve access to funding?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Also in the Community Advantage Program, we extended the program through September 2024 by 2 years. We also removed criminal background question requirements to further reduce racial bias in the Community Advantage Program. That announcement we had with Vice President Harris back at Howard University some months ago. Very strong program for Community Advantage. We also secured reauthorization for America's Seed Fund for SBIRs, extended it, the $4 billion capital program for America's Seed Fund annually by $4 billion. Wow. We also are making and going through making changes with SBICs to encourage investment into small businesses, particularly as it relates to the Department of Transportation and some of the historic investments that the Biden-Harris administration is making into our nation's infrastructure and other initiatives that will require small businesses to move those agendas and initiatives along that will help, employ people, grow small businesses. So, Small Business Administration, as you said, we're very busy right now, changing some rules, upgrading some rules, bringing some of our rules into the 21st century in order to encourage capital, encourage investment into our nation's 33 million small businesses.
Well, that's a great point about the SBIR and all these programs. I want to mention that I think SBA is typically known as a guarantee provider, a loan guarantee provider. And the SBIR is actually an investment vehicle. And that fuels so much of the innovation, especially when it comes to fast growth or high growth companies and innovations in in multiple industries. I think in terms of the Community Advantage program, you mentioned extended to 2024. Some folks don't know what that means. How does that impact access? What does it mean to extend it, and why did it need to be extended?
Well, it needed to be extended because one, it will allow us to go into some of the so-called small dollar loans, the under $50,000 unsecured loans that really a lot of small businesses need. It's not a lot of times it's not the big dollars that small businesses need. Eventually, they will need the big dollars, but sometimes it's just the under 50,000 in order to begin and grow and scale the business. So this allows for a time period for those unsecured under $50,000 small loans. It allows that to be rolled out. It allows us to also increase, in which we did, the maximum loan size of $350,000. Allows for that time to for businesses to apply for that. We needed time in order to get this out. As you know, during the pandemic, it was rush because businesses needed it. Now that we're on the recovery side, folks are taking a breath. Businesses are coming back, opening back up. All right. Now here's some capital that you really can take advantage of. We didn't want to rush businesses through this, but, give a 2-year period in order to apply and get the loans in order to scale and grow their businesses coming out of the pandemic.
That's right. And this is such exciting news. That extension is going to help so many businesses, especially like you said, those micro dollars. They may seem like small, relatively speaking, of course, but they can make such a big difference. So that also is a great segue to this next question around the pandemic. So many lessons were learned during the pandemic. We know that the capital programs that emerged were really instrumental in helping businesses survive, like the EIDL and PPP. But despite these innovations, we know that particularly smaller BIPOC and women-owned businesses were not able to access that much needed capital. And 2 years later, we have all these great lessons. Curious to know, how is the SBA taking those lessons and shaping new ideas and initiatives? And maybe another question to that is, how is the SBA working with other agencies? I know you do a lot of work in intergovernmental relationships. How is the SBA working with other agencies and entities to make that capital more inclusive and more available to small businesses?
Yeah, thank you for that question. The pandemic exposed a lot of, inequities. And then also it exacerbated that a lot of businesses, particularly the ones that you mentioned, sometimes they were not ready to access capital. And we realized that early on. So some of the partnerships coming out of that is, first of all, calling it out, being intentional about addressing those needs. One of the partnerships that we formed was with the National Pan-Hellenic Council, also known as the Divine Nine, the 9 historic African-American fraternities and sororities that make up the Divine Nine, talking about access to capital, talking about government contracting, having trainings on these particular subject matters, bringing in subject matter experts, going into these communities that had, direct impact in terms of the pandemic and the capital or lack of capital, and really making folks aware of the free resources of SBA, the products and services. We've also partnered with the Department of Transportation on the surety bond side. with the historic investment made in infrastructure on the transportation side of infrastructure, leveraging SBA's bond authority with DOT is to where, we can open that up. And bonding is so important because a lot of small businesses may not have the track record or the bonding capacity under the current situation, but by adding SBA as a partner, that is one way we could, have the bond guarantee and open that bonding capacity up, and making sure that we're bringing in women-owned businesses, businesses in underserved communities to be a part of this historic investment that the Biden-Harris administration has made in America.
Wow. Okay. That is exciting. We're going to get into a little bit more of that procurement. I think the procurement changes and opportunities. You mentioned this new partnership with sorry, there was a slight audio glitch there. So you mentioned this partnership that you have created, and I think it's such an innovative move by the SBA to really look at the partners on the ground. And one of the more recent, another recent initiative is the pilot program, which I believe is piloted for the next few years, which is the Community Navigator program. It's now active across the U.S. Curious to know, what are some of the early observations with the program, and what is the program status? How likely is it to continue?
Well, how likely it is to continue will be based upon Congress and how well we execute as well. But right now, I think the Community Navigators is in a good place. Of course, we have 8. It was a sort of a tiered approach. Some of our, national partners like the Urban League, Black Chamber, OISTA, the International Rescue Committee, LISC, a number of partners that we have are currently on the ground engaging with the small of the small, meeting folks where they are, trusted community partners. And then we also have a tier 2 and tier 3 agreements with local community organizations on the county level, the city level, and the state level to go out, engage with businesses, bring them in and make them aware of the products and services of SBA, what we can do to help these businesses grow and scale, things that they don't have to pay for. Such as the technical assistance. But Community Navigators is I'm very excited about the program. Hopefully we can move it from pilot to permanent. I think the relevance of it will allow a number of folks in underserved communities who want to become entrepreneurs and see entrepreneurship as a pathway. Community Navigators is one tool in the toolbox that could help folks become entrepreneurs, invest in their communities, and be small business owners.
Yes, it's such a phenomenal program, and it really puts a lot of these community organizations that provide other social services, for example, to be more familiar with how to connect their clients to SBA's programs and services. And like you said, there are so many wonderful resources that are at no cost, and it's just such a great program. And I'm excited to hear more about it as it continues to evolve, and hopefully it will become a permanent program.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but like you said, they're trusted organizations that are already organizing in those communities, and what better way to reach? No need to reinvent the wheel. They're already on the ground. So exactly. So again, another smart initiative, and we're so glad to actually work with a lot of the organizations that are part of the Community Navigator Network. So I'd like to go back to the tidbit you shared around procurement. I think this is a major
big news for what's to come in 2023 and beyond. So as part of the recent Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, we have emerging opportunities for small businesses to really help build the infrastructure, build roads, bridges, different infrastructure opportunities across the country. Can you speak to how the administration and SBA are ensuring that small and disadvantaged businesses are able to connect to infrastructure programs and participate in these opportunities?
Well, of course, we talked a little bit about navigators. That is one way, to ask your navigators questions and have the appropriate links from our navigators, our 68 field offices across the territories and our states. Of course, we talked a little bit about the surety bonding, making sure that that access is there on the surety side. Everything is of course, a part of an equity agenda, building up to, accessing government contracting, making sure that, our small businesses, particularly in underserved communities, are aware of what funding is out there, either Community Advantage, or SBIR, the American Seed Fund, the SBIC, some of the rule changing, making sure that they have the capital to, of course, participate and be a part of the contracting side. As it relates to infrastructure, we have CHIPS coming up. There are a number of different avenues. For SBA, it's really, the education side of, what government contracting looks like, what historic investments will be made, closing some of those long-standing gaps. Of course, the administration, the Biden-Harris administration has placed goals for government contracting and investment, and making sure that small businesses are ready to access capital to, of course, participate in some of the historic investments as it relates to government contracting.
Yes, and I think you may have mentioned this earlier around the Department of Transportation, but an exciting piece of news is the SBA recently signed an MOU to support meeting that goal of 20% of federal contracts going to small and disadvantaged businesses. So I want to highlight that. I think that's something that you mentioned earlier. And speaking of procurement, we know there are some changes that are taking place around the impact of procurement around ESG. So for folks who are not familiar with that term, we actually have a panel discussion around it. So environmental, social, and governance. And these changes are really to support environmental and sustainability goals. And curious to hear from you about what are the goals with these enhancements, and how should small businesses prepare for these changes? How might these changes actually affect them?
Yeah, well, it's the new frontier of investment. It's the new frontier of, pivoting from, fossil fuel over to more sustainable energy, making sure that, we have environmentally safe practices within small business. That's number one. And then making sure that these small businesses can take advantage of some of the investments in, sustainable energy and environmental practice, safe environmental practices. Again, it goes back to making sure that, in our SBIC rule changes and some of our rule changing packages that we're making, sustainable energy and environmental goals a priority for investment. Making sure that our small businesses are aware that this information is out there, that rules are being changed in order to encourage this investment, and then that that the investment is there, but making sure that our small businesses are able to receive that capital, access to capital, and be in a position to take advantage of that. I know you mentioned there's a panel coming up, and I know it's a deep dive. I'm not an expert in that particular area. I'm still learning myself in terms of those, what that looks like, the sustainable goals, what the environmental goals look like. But I do know that without capital, without the proper training to receive capital and access, it'll be sitting there, the opportunity to be sitting there, but we're not ready to access it. And so we want to make sure that, when the opportunity presents itself, we're ready to receive that as a small business owner.
Yes. And you're right. With any of these initiatives, capital is going to play a major role. I also like that you said, you're learning. We all are. This is, like you said, the new frontier. So we all are learning together. And it's wonderful that to see these changes take place at the federal level, that really pushes us to think about what the future holds for not only the small businesses of today, but for future generations. And Kendall, we have a couple more questions from the audience. One is, there's a question about the STEP program. They're interested in learning more about it. What resources might be available for them to learn more about that?
Yeah, I think we've updated our website in terms of STEP and some of the STEP grants and awards that have gone out. Many states have taken advantage of the STEP program as it relates to that. So, visit our website. I would encourage, when it comes to STEP, that is not a very easy it's not a elevator speech you can give. So I would encourage folks to get in touch with our field offices and sit down with our field offices, have conversations with our district directors and our economic specialists who are very well versed in the STEP program. It's going to take 30, 45 minutes in order to have a good conversation about STEP and learn everything that goes into our STEP program.
And folks, SBA staff are incredible. They just want to help. And I've worked with them personally in a previous capacity as a lender. And all they want to do is provide information, point you to the right places. So we definitely encourage you to look up your local district office and find someone there. Reach out to us if you need support. Another question. People who are interested in learning more about small loans available from SBA, where should they turn to?
Again, go to our website, look at, when it comes to our loans, again, our resource officers, but take advantage, of course, of our community navigators, many of whom are associated with some of the community banks, some of the local financial players within those communities. With the Community Navigator program, we wanted to make sure that trusted partners locally can be plugged in. A lot of folks, when you ask about that, may not have a relationship with banks and with those financial lenders. Our community navigators could help with that. So I would encourage folks to get in touch with our local offices to help, even with introductions. Our economic specialists, they're standing by, they're waiting for folks to reach out to them, and we're doing our due diligence to push people into that. But small loans, those small dollar loans, of course, some of the rules we've changed will allow for that. So please, it's out there. Take advantage of it.
Yes, the SBA website is full of information. I think there's also a section called Lender Match where you can enter your scenario and it will populate some of the local institutions for you. And I'm sorry to say this is all the time we have left with Kendall, but we appreciate the time that you gave us today. And we hope that we can connect with you in 2023 and hear an update on all of these wonderful initiatives at the SBA.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.